Moroccan revolutionist Ben Barka hasn't been seen since 1965. So call us Detective Afrique, because we are going through the evidence and the very, very long suspect list to solve this infamous cold case.
Hi everyone, I'm Lynn Tala.
And I'm Sarah Masiwa.
And this is Bar Afrique, the podcast where we tell the independent stories of different African countries as we sip on different African alcohols. Hey Sarah, how you doing today?
I'm okay.
Yeah?
I'm doing good.
Tell us what we're talking about today.
We are talking about the prominent Moroccan revolutionary, Mehdi Ben Barka. The hardest part of doing this podcast is pronunciations, but I got you. Mehdi Ben Barka.
I like that.
Yeah, and so we're talking about he was a revolutionary and he disappeared in 1965.
Oh.
He was last seen being escorted by police into a vehicle in the streets of Paris. And so we're going to talk about this cold case. And we're doing it in two parts. The first is the facts.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about receipts, proof, timeline. What happened? And then in part two of the episode, we're going to talk about some of the suspects, some of the conspiracy theories that exist, some of the allegations. This is a cold case, so it has not officially been solved.
Wow.
But there's a lot swirling around.
Before we dive deep into this episode of Morocco, I just want to say that Sarah and I today are drinking a Shiraz from South Africa.
We are.
From Robertson Winery. And let me taste it a little bit.
I thought you were going to cheers me and you're really far away. So I thought we were going to be like...
smooth. Well, cheers still. But she's smooth. I like her.
That is very good.
Yes. A 2023 Shiraz. Wonderful. And so I think it's time for us to dive deep into Morocco. Let us know what's up.
Thank you. I will let you know what's up. So we're talking about Morocco today. Just super exciting. A very brief history of Morocco during this period. In the early 1900s, France came to Morocco.
Okay.
Maybe call it an invasion, if you will. Depends on the day. But France comes into Morocco pretty quickly. They help a pro-French sultan come into power. And by 1912, Morocco is a French protectorate.
Okay.
So like the difference between a French protectorate and a colony is that when you're a colony, everything is determined by like the country that's colonizing you. So like both your internal and your external affairs.
Okay.
Whereas if you're a protectorate, France controlled all the foreign affairs and like defense and the military and stuff, but all the internal affairs technically were controlled domestically by the sultans.
Okay.
So there's like some level of like internal control. So that's what was happening. But like ever since that period of Morocco becoming a protectorate, it was like very contentious.
Okay.
There was a lot of resistance. I feel bad like summarizing this period because I think there's like a lot of like really interesting history through from 1912 through like, from 1912 into like the 20s and 30s about like how they revolted. We're not going to go into that today, but it was essentially the Berber tribes, which are like the indigenous people of Morocco, who really came together and like really resisted quite a lot. Thousands of them were killed. Another thing on top of that is that like France is assimilationist way of doing things, which we've like spoken about before, never really took off in Morocco.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So like there's like a lot of different reasons as to why, but like Moroccans tended to be very proud of the fact that they were not a colony, and that was really important to them. So France didn't really integrate into Morocco the way that it was seen in other places.
And also, I think the fact that it was more of a protectorate instead of a colony or like a department as well played into that.
Yeah, I think that's a really big deal. But anyway, so the Berber people, or like these different groups, these different indigenous groups, they lead, like their resistance leads to the founding of the first political movement, which is called, oh my gosh, my French, Comité d'Action Marocaine.
Okay, like that's, your pronunciation was nice.
I sounded like an airport announcement.
No, but nice, Sarah.
Thank you. I take this very seriously.
I know.
But yeah, so anyway, they start the first political movement against the French. And this is kind of where we find the protagonist of our story, who's Mehdi Ben Barka. He's born in the 1920s. He is one of very few people who are like from the non-bourgeoisie.
Oh. Bourgeoisie.
He's like one of the very few people outside of that social class who gets a very good education. He does really well in school. He studies math, goes on to like get his bachelor's degree in math. And he actually joins the political movement at a very young age, the age of 14. So he's the youngest member of the movement.
That's interesting.
Yeah, he's really, really young. And then by the time he's 17, he is the youngest establishing member of Morocco's first political party, which is called the IP, which stands for Istiklal Party. But I'm calling it IP.
Okay. I won't even try to pronounce that. So we'll stick with IP.
Yeah, I did it one time. He goes and he studies math. He comes back. And around this time, like his nationalist interests really start to expand, where he's like, you know what, like Morocco doesn't exist in isolation, and Morocco's independence has to come in tandem with like a regional independence. And he really starts to think like first like across the Maghreb, but like then further like more like pan-Africanist about like, okay, how do we all as like move as a unit so that everybody gets independence, which I would like really love. Like that kind of becomes like his guiding principle.
Love that.
Yeah, which is really cool. So he comes back at the age of 23 and becomes a math teacher. And he starts teaching at the Royal Academy. And little does he know that one of his students, who is Hassan II, who is the son of the current Sultan of Morocco.
Wow.
Mohammed V.
Yeah.
Little does he know that Hassan II will ultimately be the man responsible for his demise.
That's insane.
Yeah. He taught him math for 4 years. Yeah, crazy.
And that's the person who's going to be responsible for his demise.
Yeah.
You never know about this life for real.
Know. You never know who's going to come back. Yeah. So the IP, they start to really ramp up in like their calls for independence. They publish a manifesto for full independence, and it's actually approved by Sultan Mohammed V. He supports what they've said in their manifesto. But the French are like, nah, no, you can't have that. And they arrest a lot of the members of IP, including Ben Barka, who ends up in prison for a year. Even within that, him and like the other leaders are arrested, but they continue to like call for independence. And it starts to like really grow as a movement within the country. In 1947, by this time Ben Barka has like come out of prison. The Sultan Mohammed V does a really famous speech called the Tangier speech, where he actually calls for independence from France.
Wow.
And it's believed that Ben Barka like was the speechwriter of that speech. So they're like really moving in tandem. Like he acts as an advisor to the Sultan. This kind of continues where he like starts to become really prominent and like elevated in the movement. By 1951, a French general of the army actually calls him like enemy number one of France and Morocco.
Oh, they're scared.
Mad, yeah.
They're mad and they're scared.
They are mad and scared. But he's placed under house arrest around this time.
Jeez.
And a lot of that's believed because like Morocco's like going into elections later that year. Because remember, like as a protectorate, like they can't have elections.
Yeah.
And so like placing him under house arrest is like really designed to neutralize him. But the nationalist party, so like IP, boycotts the elections. And they like leads to like riots, clashes with the police, that kind of thing. But again, it's being supported by Sultan Muhammad V. In the end, Muhammad V is deposed by the French, and he's taken to Madagascar. Yes, your people.
My people.
And they put in a new sultan.
Okay.
But that sultan's seen as illegitimate by the people, which like just makes things worse.
Yeah.
And the people like demand like the return of the sultan. And this kind of leads like Ben Barka at this point, he's like really involved in like the negotiations to bring Sultan Muhammad V back. The protests continue through the 50s. Again, it's a very violent period. Like thousands of people are killed through the 50s by the French troops for resisting. Like Morocco earned their independence.
Like it sounds like they were fighting for a while.
Yeah. Like some countries, like no shade, but like some countries like stumbled into independence. Like it was like, oh, your neighbor and your neighbor and your neighbor are getting independence. Therefore, like you also get independence.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like, oh, okay. But like Morocco, like
they fought for it
for
a long time.
For a very, very long time. Anyway, it is worth it because by the end of 1955, France announces that Morocco will be granted its independence in March of 1956. But like...
It was one of the first.
Yes. Technically, yes. But like, it was never it wasn't a colony.
Right.
So some people don't
consider it as one of the first because it still was able to manage its own internal affairs.
Yeah. So it is a bit of like a gray area, but it was very, very early. But like this is where things get unfortunate.
Yes.
The Sultan is brought back from Madagascar and reinstated, right?
Yes.
Remember, him and Ben Barka, and the IP, they've all been on the same side.
Yeah, I've been working in tandem anyway.
But now that independence comes, it's clear that he has a different vision for what Morocco is going to look like. So
the Sultan.
Yes, Muhammad V. So he takes on the title of king.
And who gave him that?
Himself.
As they do.
Yes. He takes on the title of king. And he makes Morocco a constitutional monarchy, which is like, it's technically like that in of itself is not that bad. Like that's what the UK is. But he basically creates a system where democracy can exist in Morocco, kind of. But like
side note,
footnote. But the what do you call it? The monarchy will exist like on top of that as like an ultimate power.
Okay.
Right. So they still can practice democracy with like parliament and elections and all of that stuff.
But does that mean that then he has ultimate power?
Yes.
Okay.
As the king.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just trying to understand that if, let's say, members of parliament, let's say, they make a decision, he ultimately gets to decide whether whatever is...
Not necessarily. Like, it just means that, like the head of the government is him ultimately. Mm-hmm. But, like, parliament can decide on laws.
Right.
Like, they can't depose him, but they can, like, make decisions for democracy.
Right.
So, like, they're kind of practicing democracy, but, like, at the end of the day, like...
He's got ultimate power.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he kind of consolidates power, but it is more democratic than it was before.
Mm-hmm.
So The other thing that he does is, even though the IP was like the people who like really pushed for independence and fought for it, he turns Morocco into a one-party state and doesn't allow IP to participate in the politics.
I'm getting, I don't want to say flashbacks because I wasn't there in that period, but I'm getting, like it's feeling familiar.
What about it is feeling familiar?
People come getting independence, somebody consolidating power, and then saying other parties are not allowed to really participate.
It's so rude. Imagine like
So rude.
they brought this man out of exile.
Literally bringing him back Madagascar to Morocco. And he said, well,
Yeah.
too bad, so sad. You can't really participate in politics anymore.
Crazy. They literally negotiated for him to come back.
It's
That's
rude.
what he did. Ben Barka, he leaves the IP and he forms his own political party called the UNFP. This is the Union Nationale des Forces Populaires. So yeah, the UNFP party. Just kind of wrapping this part up, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what Hassan II is doing during this period. So Hassan II goes into exile with his father.
Yeah.
And during that time, like really acts as his father's advisor. And for that reason, he's named as the crown prince. So when Muhammad V comes back and like becomes king, he dies pretty quickly afterwards. So he dies in 1961, and Hassan II becomes the ruler of Morocco. And so yeah, he, believe it or not, is worse. He consolidates power around himself even more. He changes the constitution to make himself the supreme ruler of Morocco.
Oh, so he's
Like,
crazy.
yeah. So like constitutional monarchy, the way that Sultan Muhammad V has done it is that like there was the king who's like there's head of state and head of government. He makes himself both. So he's like the head of the government. He's the prime minister as well. He's everything. He's like supreme ruler.
Yeah.
And like obviously like that makes like IP and like UNFP like really, really mad. Ben Barka, like him and his party released this document called the Revolutionary Option in Morocco, which is like this document that's very socialist and kind of has like Marxist ideas, kind of being like, this is not what we asked for. He wants like democracy. He wants like an anti-imperial movement. Like he says all these things. So like obviously Hassan II is like mad.
Yeah.
And so in 1963, just like out of the blue, Hassan II says that like the UNFP has like tried to kill him. Like he's like, Ben Barka tried to kill me. And so
oh my God.
yeah, he's just like, but like the weird thing about this is he's like, they tried to kill me in my bed, which is like a very specific thing to say.
Yeah.
Like he's not like, oh, they tried to murder me. He's like, they tried to murder me like while I was in my bed, which is like a weird thing. But yeah, so he basically says like the UNFP like tried to assassinate him. And so like a lot of members of the UNFP are arrested. During this time, Ben Barka is like out of the country. So he goes into exile.
Where is he at this point?
I believe he's in Cairo.
Okay.
But he kind of like starts to move around quite a bit. Like,
Okay.
and like it's part of this that like his location isn't really known. But like I believe he was in Cairo at the time. And so what he starts doing while he's in like he's like sentenced to death in absentia. It's a small thing. Like twice. They do it twice. Yeah, while he's in exile. They're like, if you come back, you're dead.
You're dead.
Yeah, but while he is in exile, he's like working on this thing called the Three Continents Conference, which is going to be scheduled for January of 1966. And it's basically this conference that's supposed to convene like a lot of the global south into like this big thing about like, okay, like how can we move as one? How can we like all fight imperialism? That kind of thing. That's what he's working on. But then obviously it never comes to fruition because during this time, so like the end of 1965, Ben Barka is contacted by a film director to be a consultant on a film or a documentary that's about like decolonization. And so he goes to meet the director in Paris. And as he's getting out of the car, he is stopped by 3 French police officers. He's with a student who like tells the story afterwards. He's stopped by 3 French police officers. They ask to see his ID. They then escort him to their vehicle. They put him into the vehicle. And that is the last time Ben Barka has been seen alive.
Bomboklat. And this is where we end part 1.
This is where we end part 1. Dun, dun, dun.
I'm actually...
Chills.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Dun, dun, dun.
Like I actually have chills.
Yeah.
Wait, let me save my question from we start the part again. 1965. He meets a director in Paris, stopped by 3 police officers, and that is the last time he's seen.
Yeah.
Wait, that just gave me something in my chest.
Did the tone shift into a true crime podcast? It did.
I felt it in my chest.
It is feeling a bit spooky now. I'm not going to lie. It is feeling like the vibe.
I just think like disappearances are so... They give me chills.
They give me chills as well.
Hello, everyone. We are back for this episode. And where we just left off is Ben Barka in 1965 was meeting up with a director in Paris to talk about a documentary on decolonization. And while they're in the car, they get stopped by 3 police officers. And apparently that is the last time that Ben Barka was ever seen again.
So they're like walking into the meeting and then the police stop them and then escort them into a police car.
And that is the last time he's ever seen again.
Yeah.
That gave me chills, Sarah.
I know. I feel like we're in a true crime podcast now.
I just think that in general, when people are made to be disappeared, it just gives me chills. I just think it's such a crazy way for people to hurt others. Like, I don't know. It's just, it's so spooky to me.
It's crazy. It's very scary. Yeah, but let's jump straight into it.
Yes.
Now, before we do, I'm going to make a disclaimer, right? What we were talking about before are facts. What we are talking about now are allegations.
This is a true crime episode. I just want to say, this is a true crime episode.
For me saying, oh, where's the, I am just, I also want to make it very clear. I'm not saying anybody is responsible for killing Ben Barka. I do not know. It is a cold case. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I just want to make that clear.
Nobody come for her.
Nobody come for me.
All she's doing is laying out facts.
These are allegations, not accusations.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Say it again to the camera.
Allegations, not accusations.
Exactly.
Yeah. I feel like I needed to make that very clear before, the tinfoil hat squad comes for me.
Come for you.
Yeah. She said on Bar Afrique episode 2, she said, this person is a murderer. Don't come for me. Anyway, what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about the suspects.
Yes.
And there's a lot of suspects.
I just want to say, as someone who watches a lot of true crime,
yeah,
I feel like I'm in my element with this episode.
I love that. I don't watch any true crime.
I love a true crime.
Yeah.
I love this. I'm into it.
Yeah, that's great. I don't watch any true crime. I think it's because I work in documentaries.
That is true.
It's like the one time I was asked to work, they were like, oh, like everybody like pitched true crime ideas. And so I like went home and I spent the night like Googling like worst murders.
I can just see you at home.
Worst murders.
Worst murders.
Gruesome murders. Gruesome unsolved murders. And I came back the next morning. I was like, I can't do this. This is not my portion. Anyway, let us jump into the theories and the suspects. Okay, so we're going to start our Detective Afrique investigation, right, in Paris in 1965 in October. What is very unexpected about this is that the French public and the French press latch onto this story very, very quickly.
As they would.
And they are like, well, not necessarily. Because, like, remember, like, Ben Barka has been said by, like, the French army general to be, like, #1 enemy of France, right? So I guess maybe there's, like, an assumption that, like, the French people would be like, you know, he wasn't on our side. But, like, the French public are like, where is this guy? Where has he gone? We want answers. You know?
I get that. But doesn't that also play into that element of, it becomes an element of entertainment also?
Yes, it becomes very sensationalist.
Exactly.
100%. But I think what's also driving it is like there's a element of like the French public that is like, that cannot believe that something like this has happened on their soil.
Right.
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 So they're kind of wanting answers to be like, hold on, like somebody has to be accountable for like why this is happening in Paris. Right. So this blows up in the French press. It's everywhere. So the first clue that they kind of have to go on is that the film director was legit. Like he was a director called Georges Franju. He had made other films before. He's legit, right? The other guy who was at this meeting, who became known as like the third man.
This was the student?
No, this is not the student. Ben Barka arrived with a student, but never actually made it into the meeting. The two people that he was supposed to be meeting are the film director and a third person.
Okay.
The third man. So everyone kind of starts being like, okay, who is the third man? Right? Especially when the director comes out and it's like, I was actually brought into this project by somebody else. So the director didn't come up with the idea. Right? So someone has created a reason.
Oh, Sarah.
For Ben Barka to be at this meeting.
To be at this meeting.
And the third man is like their biggest lead. So like all across the French press, they're like, who is the third man? Right? Now, this man, Georges Fignon, comes forward. And he is like, I wasn't going to say anything, but like, he's like an ex-con. He's like described as an ex-con and freelance spy.
What is okay? Now they're just they're taking the piss.
Like, I just do this in my spare time. I freelance. But he comes forward and he's basically like, look, I wasn't gonna say anything, but I did a job and they didn't pay me. So now I'm gonna speak. Right. And he basically says that he was hired to lure Ben Barka to this place. And that he was actually present where they took Ben Barka, which was a villa in the suburbs of France, and that he witnessed Ben Barka being tortured by the Moroccan Minister of Interior. So, like, a member of, like, the government personally was waiting at a villa to torture him, right? According to Georges Fignon. Right. So this is Georges Fignon's like, and he's like very specific, but he's also like a bit shady in that he's like, I'm going to tell you the beginning of the story, but like.
Feels very opportunistic.
Yeah. But he's like, I'm going to tell you this, but also I'm only going to tell you like part of it and like wait for part 2.
He said, I'm having my own podcast episode at this point.
He's like, there's more to come. So he's like, wait for part 2. Right. So this is like all over the French press, and the French like newspaper called L'Express that he's supposed to be talking to, like they published the story. The French police then go to arrest Georges Fignon, right? And during the arrest of Georges Fignon, he the official narrative is that he kills himself. But when they come to collect him, he is dead. So they cannot question him.
Audience,
Yes.
make your own conclusions.
Yes. And like just to like clarify, like George Fignon, the person who he's saying has tortured Ben Barka is his name is Mohammed Ofkir.
And he is the
Minister of Interior
of Morocco.
And he is known to be anyway, okay. So that's George Fignon.
Jesus.
Right. So there obviously becomes a narrative that like the person behind this is Mohammed Ofkir, and that who is a very close ally of
Hassan II.
King Hassan II, and is seen as like his strong man or his enforcer, and is known in Morocco as being like kind of the guy who like oppresses dissenters.
Right.
So like it is the link between what has happened to Ben Barka and like the Moroccan leadership is like very clear, and it's seen that like Morocco has done King Hassan has done this because he saw Ben Barka as like a threat to the throne, and also like he wanted to kill him. He sentenced him to death twice, yeah,
in absentia. So he's very serious about it.
Very serious, right? But like the question becomes like from the French public is like they have two like big things that they have issues with, right? And like remember, this is all being like in real time being debated amongst the people of France, right? So the first is that the French public believe that there's no way that something like this, right, could have happened in Morocco without a knowledge of the French government, right? The second thing that they feel is like, how did Ben Barka get from the custody of French police to the custody of the Moroccan government in France?
They've answered their own question. Even with the first thing that they asked, there's no way that something could happen in Morocco without the French knowing.
Yes. So like they actually do a poll at this time in France, and majority of the French people do not believe the story that George Fignon was accidentally killed or killed himself.
Yeah.
Majority of the French people believe that there is an official cover-up by the French government.
And I think it's so valid and fair for them to think that. And I think it's crazy for the Moroccan government and the French government to think that the people are dumb enough to believe these things, that like the people aren't able to think for themselves and to see that this is possibly a cover-up. Like I think it's dumb on those governments' part to think that the people wouldn't be able to read into things.
Yeah. So basically like what's happening in France at the time is this is all like Ben Barka gets taken in October. The French press is pushing things November, December. In January is supposed to be an election, right? Where Charles de Gaulle is running. Right. So
our dear Charles de Gaulle.
I know. So all his opponents stop being like, so CDG, that's what we call him, he's not saying anything. Yeah. His opponents are like, it's a cover up. See, he's not saying anything. And they make it like a point in the election. Because they're obviously trying to beat him, to be like, this is all a cover up. CDG knows about it. Like, why doesn't he say anything? He keeps quiet. It doesn't help. Like by the time George Fignon is killed in January, it's like everyone's like, CDG's lying. Yeah. Right. So he eventually speaks up. He's like, we're launching an investigation. He issues an arrest warrant for Ofkir, who's the Minister of Interior. Yeah. And like later on, this investigation goes on for a while, but like what it finds officially is that rogue agents in France were responsible for handing over Ben Barka to the Moroccans, but that they did not know that he would end up dead, and also that it wasn't like a wider French operation.
And who hired these rogue agents?
No, he's basically like, it's a few bad apples.
This just cringes me out terribly because it's such a lazy excuse. Like, it's such a lazy excuse and explanation for what we know. You know what I mean? Like, it's so lazy.
Yeah. And he like acknowledges, he's like, we French people helped to kidnap him. So like that is like, of everything we're talking about, like that is fact.
Yeah.
Like France kidnapped him for the purposes
Absolutely.
of handing him to Morocco.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh no, they wanted to kill him.
Oh no, we didn't know.
We didn't know, even though he's been sentenced to death twice in absentia. But anyway, so that's kind of like, we can like take that kind of as like, you know, what happened. But there's a couple of other suspects that we have to talk about. One is a favorite of this podcast, the CIA.
Yay! Yo, the CIA.
Yeah. Can I side note? Somebody asked me, someone who listened to season 1 asked me, they were like, oh, like, are you like ever afraid that that the CIA will hear what you're saying?
No.
And like come after you? And I said, if the CIA is listening to Bar Afrique,
they should subscribe.
Subscribe.
Leave a comment and like.
Go like and subscribe. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.
We appreciate all our listeners. But anyway, all of this is like I was also just like we're not wizards. Like this information is available on the internet.
It's literally available. Like we're not saying anything new.
I know.
We
like,
didn't go
Google
and
this.
like look through archives that are not available to the public.
Exactly. Like I love that people come here to listen to history, but like you can also Google it.
You can Google it. We just tell it in a very interesting way.
Yeah, with alcohol. Anyway, we're going to talk very quickly about the CIA because one part of this investigation is that there's these stories that are like floating around that the reason that no one's been able to locate Ben Barka is that he's been killed. Obviously, but that his body has been dissolved in acid.
And where have we heard that before?
At the time, the CIA is like the official like acid procurers of the dodgy world.
I think it's so funny that you just...
This is like the speciality.
Procurers of the world.
No, this is like a rumor at the time where like even like French newspapers are like, oh, like this kind of like this has CIA vibes. Like where else do you just get acid? Like you can't just buy acid to dissolve.
No, you have to procure it from a specific source.
Yes, and there's all these like stories floating around. Like there's one journalist, an American journalist, who says that he gets drunk with a CIA agent who admits to helping with the cover up.
Jesus Christ.
And like there's another rumor that like the CIA denies this at the time. They're like, we didn't do this, but like
I don't expect anything less.
What did we say? What was the phrase?
Allegations and not accusations.
Okay, we don't know. We don't know. We don't know what happened.
No, but honestly, we don't know.
Yeah, but the accusation at the time is that the CIA supplied the specs and the materials. Like the specs for like how
to do it.
How to dispose of an African revolutionary's body is like a specialization. So anyway, so there's that thread floating around. The other one that we have to talk about very quickly is Mossad, right?
Okay.
So
let's get in there then.
Yes. So Mossad at the time, like initially didn't have like the best relationship with Morocco, but like during the 1960s when like Hassan II comes into power, there's this weird story about how like basically the Israeli government wanted Moroccan Jews to be able to come back to Israel. And initially Morocco had like said no. And so when Hassan II comes into power, there's this like weird story about how he's allowing Moroccan Jews to move back to Israel, and that he gets paid $100 for every Moroccan Jew that is allowed to go back to Israel. Which is weird because like you're like the king and sultan of Morocco. Like $100 is like, it's like a weird thing.
Yeah.
Right?
It's nothing to you basically.
Yeah, well like it's like a weird, the numbers just are weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway. That's the story at the time. Like decades later, it comes out that what was really happening was that Mossad had an agreement with King Hassan where they would provide weapons and training to Moroccan intelligence agents, right? And then in September of 1965, which is a month before Ben Barka goes missing, Morocco hosts a conference of all the Arab leaders. And it allows Mossad to bug their bedrooms to like get intelligence information. Right. And it is believed that it was a quid pro quo and that in return for like allowing Mossad to do this, they then like Mossad then does them the favor of setting up the meeting. So the historical consensus is that Mossad are the ones who did all the setup of like the documentary film, you know,
getting Ben Barka to Paris,
finding out where he was in the first place, because he was in Switzerland when he received the information about like this documentary.
Right.
So luring him out, it is believed historically that Mossad was responsible for that. So anyway, that's kind of where we're gonna wrap up, because clearly like there's a lot going on there. The historical consensus is likely somewhere in the middle of all of this, which is that like, you know, we know Morocco was kind of behind it with King Hassan and Mohammed Aufkir, but with the help of some element of French police, maybe there was knowledge with the French government. Mossad likely helped in the setting up of things. And the CIA at this point is like, that's probably like the most far-fetched one where people are like, there's like no proof that the CIA did this, but there's always going to be kind of like an element of like suspicion. Yeah, that's it.
I just want to say that this story gives me some chills, because
as it should,
because I think there's a little bit of truth in every suspect that you've listed. I think everyone's got a hand in it a little bit, but no one's gonna say anything. But I think, given what you've told us about Ben Barka's leading basically a new revolution from exile, the fact that he was basically sentenced to death in absentia by King Hassan II, like, it was a Moroccan ploy. Definitely like a Moroccan ploy.
I think that's very...
But nobody's ever going to say... But I think it's also complicated because it happened on French soil. And it's not like it happened on Moroccan soil where you can focus it just on Morocco. Because it happened on French soil, that means somebody in the French whatever, like anything, knew that it was going to happen.
Yeah. I think that's the thing of like I don't know. There's no smoke when there's no smoke without fire. And like all of these things are like allegations, and like you cannot prove anything happened.
You can't prove,
But like I think when a lot of these players have such poor records when it comes to how they treated African independent leaders, that it is totally within the realm of possibility that France was involved. It's totally within the realm of possibility that the CIA was involved. Because they were involved elsewhere.
Exactly.
Right? And same thing with Mossad.
Exactly.
So it's like, even when they say no, like even when the CIA is like, oh no, like this wasn't us, which is like totally possible. Like I think of everything, the CIA is probably like the least likely to have been.
Yeah. But it doesn't.
But like because they did so much other stuff
in other countries,
you're kind of like,
that suspicion is still there.
And that suspicion existed. I think what's really cool about the story is that suspicion existed in real time in France. The French people were like, we know our government, we don't trust them. We know the CIA, we don't trust them. Right? And so for like a European people to be the ones who are like pushing, being like, no, we know what y'all do.
Exactly.
Which is
and I
kind of
think the fact
crazy.
that it happened on their soil makes it even more it's at home.
Yeah.
Like this is happening at home. It's not like you can say he was being disappeared in like Morocco or
Yeah.
Algeria or
Yeah.
somewhere else
Yeah.
where it's not like in your backyard.
Yeah.
Because then I think it brings up the idea that if this can happen on my soil through the whatever alleged collaboration,
Yeah.
alleged like assistance from my government,
Yeah.
what can they do to me?
Yeah. Yeah. And I just think there's also like, I don't know. I don't think anyone expected the French people to react the way that they did.
Yeah.
I don't think they thought it would become such like this was like on the cover of like Time magazine. Like it was
it was a big deal.
It was a big deal at the time.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone expected that. And I almost think like, you know, for this story in particular, if that reaction hadn't happened, we probably wouldn't we wouldn't know anything.
It wouldn't know
Like,
anything.
It
would have just it would have stayed hidden.
Yeah.
I think so. It would have stayed hidden.
Yeah.
And I think I'm so dumbfounded by this.
I think we need to take like 2 minutes to like decompress
Yes.
from this episode and like vibe shift. Because I feel quite...
And I want to thank the audience for sticking with us for this episode because I am also feeling I'm feeling very tense and chills.
I am as well.
Like you said, it's still a cold case. Like where we might never know
and like
what actually happened.
Yeah, I feel like we should do something for the last few minutes to like... Last minute, I guess, to like decompress. Deep breaths in
and out.
This is now an ASMR episode.
I really love this.
Yeah.
As a true crime fan, I think this is a big one.
Yeah.
I think this is a big one. And I think there are so many players in this that it's just very interesting. And I can't believe I never heard about this before. But hey, this is what we're here for, to learn new things.
As a true crime non-fan, you're welcome.
Well, thank you, Sarah, for this story.
Anytime.
And thank you, everyone, for listening.